And I've got to start with some huge new reporting from the Wall Street Journal that has just come out in the last day. And guys, this is exclusive reporting from inside of the Trump administration tonight. The Journal is reporting that, quote, privately, President Trump's advisors are increasingly worried that Republicans will pay a political price for the rising fuel costs. And that's according to people familiar with the matter. That's right. We're 68 days now, 68 days into this disastrous war with Iran. And the Trump White House is waking up to the reality that rising gas prices might hurt their party at the polls. What a scoop there, that one. And boy, they're just realizing it now. And I wonder how the political geniuses who are waking up to this now inside the White House figured that one out. Maybe it was the recent NPR Marist poll showing 63% of voters blame Trump for rising gas prices, or the recent Reuters Ipsos poll showing 77% of registered voters think Trump bears responsibility for the high cost of gas, or one of the bajillions of other polls all showing Americans are fed up with Trump's war and the rising cost of gas. So now that the Trump administration finally realizes just how bad these rising gas prices are for them, how are they going to try to sell this to the American people? Because that's the key part. Well, so far, we've seen a variety of approaches. There's the complete denial approach, like what we saw from Trump's energy secretary today.
And what about people's concern about gas prices? They're seeing numbers that give them some heartburn and some heartache, and it's hard for a lot of people to figure out how they're going to stomach this for much longer.
It is. And, of course, it's been tough for our administration as well. This is an administration, the first Trump term and the second Trump term, all about lowering energy prices, and an incredibly successful record in doing that.
It's been really tough for their administration, these rising gas prices that they caused by this war. I mean, again, that was Chris Wright telling the Fox News audience that they've been incredibly successful at lowering prices as they roll a graphic showing the national average for a gallon of gas has climbed to $4.55. So that's one option, one messaging approach. What else you got? Isn't there a former reality TV star in charge of the transportation department we could talk to?
Your message to the everyday driver, those who are considering a summer vacation right now, but are kind of on the fence.
Well, listen, I think you've seen, again, a president who is willing to address a nuclear Iran.
Sorry, son, we can't afford to go to Six Flags this summer. That's okay, Dad. At least we have a president who's willing to address a nuclear...
No sooner did the Supreme Court strip away the Voters' Rights Act than Tennessee got to business stripping black voters of their power in Memphis and in Nashville. And just when you think that Southern Republicans couldn't go any lower, well, they did. I'm going to show a Tennessee state Republican lawmaker proving the only people that can go lower than Trump are the people that live to be his toadies. Tennessee has been flying under the radar for all of its blatant structural racism, getting away with ridiculous acts of both disempowering and harming its black and impoverished citizens. This is the state that Elon Musk rules over. He put an XAI data center in Memphis over the objections of the community, then employed more gas turbines than proposed.
Hello. XAI is committed to meeting the highest standard for emissions. XAI is going above and beyond the required emission control.
Whitehaven is one of the most populated high schools in Memphis. Over 2,000 students in that building. And to build something that close to those kids, I'd be ashamed of this.
And then, in true racist style, canceled the building of a wastewater recycling plant to cool the heat in the data center. The wastewater plant was supposed to let XAI use recycled water to cool the servers instead of drinking water from the region's aquifer. So screw the environment and screw the rights of minorities to access to clean water. Tennessee is also the state that doesn't allow black men to confront power on the floor of its legislature, expelling 2 black representatives, Justin Pearson and Justin Jones, for participating in a demonstration for gun control. So you can't name a state that is more racist, more disempowering of black people than Tennessee. And the new gerrymandered map makes that clear. You could never tell that Memphis and Nashville are even on this map. And this was the scene on the House floor.
Then Martin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's remind.
There is a specific kind of political panic that looks like spin, but functions like droning. You can tell the difference by watching what the messaging actually says versus what the graphic behind the speaker is showing. Chris Wright, Trump's energy secretary, told a Fox News audience that this administration has an incredibly successful record at lowering energy prices, while the network simultaneously rolled a graphic showing the national average at $4.55 a gallon. That is not spin. That's a man in a sinking boat explaining that they've always been excellent swimmers. The Wall Street Journal's reporting is the real history here, and it is worth being precise about what it says. Trump's advisors are increasingly worried that Republicans will pay a political price for rising fuel costs 68 days into the war. 77% of registered voters already telling Reuters Ipsos that Trump bears responsibility for high gas prices. 63% in the NPR Marist poll saying the same thing. The White House is waking up to a political reality that the American public apparently figured out weeks ago. The advisors described as panicking in the journal piece aren't ahead of public opinion here. They are running to catch up with it. The messaging option being deployed tell you how limited the available playbook actually is. Opinion 1. Complete Daniel. Claim the record on energy prices is excellent while the Siron disagrees in reality time. Option 2. Strategic sacrifice frame. Yes, gas is expensive, but we have a president willing to address a nuclear Iran. The implicit ask being made of the American public is to tell their kids they can't afford Six Flags this summer because the president made a foreign policy choice they didn't ask for and weren't consulted on in pursuit of a nuclear objectives that US intelligence now says hasn't been achieved. Option 3. Kevin has said, pointing out that credit card spending is up across the board, which is not the comfort. I'm sorry. It is being presented as since credit card spending increasing during a period of falling savings rates means people are borrowing to maintain lifestyles they can no longer actually afford. That is the definition of a debt-fueled illusion of stability, not a sign of economic health. None of these options work because none of them engage honestly with the underlying problem. The gas price spike has a single, traceable, and deniable cause: a war the president chose to start in a religion that controls a critical global oil choke point against an adversary that every war game since 1979 showed could be close to that choke point and hold it. This shock expressed by administration officials when Iran did exactly what every simulation said it will do is either genuine, in which case the people who started this war were catastrophically underprepared, or performative, in which case they are lying about being surprised to avoid accountability for a foreseeable consequence they choose to ignore. The case fire situation compounded the messaging problem in a way that's almost impossible to manage. Missiles flying in both directions, the second exchange in 2 weeks, and the official position is that the ceasefire is still in effect and the war has not restarted. At some point, the semantic distance between ceasefire and active military exchanges becomes so large that maintaining the distinction in public requires the kind of straight-faced confidence that only works if your audience is watching the news. American public is watching the news. They are also watching the gas pump. The CIA assessments that Iran can outlast the blockade for 90 to 120 days or more is the number that sits underneath all of this and makes discipline structurally insustainable. If that assessment is correct, and 4 administration sources apparently thought it credible enough to leak to the Washington Post, then the economic pressure the war is applying to American consumers has months left to run. The advisors panicking in the journal piece aren't panicking about a problem that's about to resolve. They are panicking about a problem that, by their own intelligence community estimate, has a long runway ahead of it. There is no messaging operation that makes $4.55 a gallon feel like success. There is no framing that turns credit card debt into prosperity. There is no spin that explains to a family canceling their summer plans why the nuclear program that justified those sacrifices is, according to US intelligence, essentially where it was before the first strike. The panic is appropriate. It is just about 68 days late.